Hello, good morning, how are things? I'm gonna have a big serious head on me for this one, I'm afraid. And if you haven't guessed in the title what it's about, you might want to skip this one if you're already decided or if you're not interested, because I feel I should talk about it, and so I will. This is my channel, get fucked. And so basically, to give the 2-second introduction, there's a referendum on Friday in Ireland. If you're not in Ireland, I'll give you the update. So basically, back in 1983, some godbotherers got together and put together an amendment to our constitution that would basically make abortion illegal forever. And the way they chose to do this is to say, well, the state recognises the right to life of the unborn. And that's pretty much all that it said. It just said, the unborn have a right to life. And the Attorney General at the time said, this is a stupid idea because it's a really complicated issue, and so you can't just say this right exists and not have any sort of anything surrounding it. Like, that's what legislation is for, because we live in a constitutional republic, but that means that laws define most of what's legal and not legal, rather than interpretation of the constitution. Anyway, what happened basically within 10 years, I think it was 92 was the 14th or 15th amendment, was that by that point we realised, yeah, do you know what, it was a fucking stupid idea, because what had started happening is that people had started getting court orders preventing people from leaving the country because they knew they were leaving the country to get an abortion, and so that was bad. So the state has to do what it can to prevent abortions, even if they happen elsewhere. And also it was essentially illegal to provide people with information on how to get abortions, and so that was not great either. So we amended our constitution again to sort of put this in there specifically, and any sort of legal people, even if you're not a legal expert, and I'm not a legal expert by any stretch, but at this point you're like, okay, you've put a change in, and now you're putting in loads of little changes to cover edge cases and stuff like that. What this is legislation. It doesn't belong in the fucking constitution. The only reason it was put in there is because, you know, religious lobby basically ran the country back in the 70s and 80s and before. So anyway, since then, all that's really happened is the 25th Amendment came along, which actually sought to strengthen it, and that actually failed. We voted against it. And since then, what's happened is there's been no government has wanted to actually put forward this referendum. Like, all of the governments are sort of socially conservative enough that they don't want to do it. They don't want to be the people whose idea it was. So then Fine Gael, who's the current government, came up with this genius idea where they said, we're going to have a constitutional convention where we're going to pick some random people and say, what do you think, and then we're going to go with what they say. So basically we can have a referendum on whatever we like, but it wasn't our idea. The constitutional convention basically heard what we wanted to do and did we want to do this, and they came up with basically the most liberalised version of what they possibly could. It's not something that the current government would ever do, would ever propose. Eventually, after many years, we're finally having a referendum. And so the referendum is basically take out the 8th Amendment, repeal the 8th Amendment, and instead of, you know, putting stuff in there and lots of little rules and stuff, just basically say, we're going to pass laws. And so that sounds reasonable, except for how the folks who got it put in the first place, a lot of them are actually still alive, and their kids are still alive. And they're like, no, this is fucking the worst. You know, no abortions ever at all. The horrible thing about that is that they kind of know well that Ireland is exporting women to have abortions every day. Every day women go to other countries from Ireland to get abortions. And again, these same people are saying, well, you know, they're not out and out saying it, but they're basically implying that most of these women are getting them due to convenience. They're using them as birth control, you know, they're having an abortion, you know, they're not being thoughtless about it, all that sort of stuff, and basically being pretty patronising and not great to women who have abortions, because a lot of women have abortions because the baby will kill them, or the baby will die as soon as it's born, and other not very nice stuff, and there's lots of stories out there of people who were told, yeah, your baby's actually not going to survive outside the womb, or it has, you know, what's called a fatal fetal abnormality, and that means you can't, like, it's not going to survive outside the womb. The best thing to do at the moment is to terminate the pregnancy, because you're not going to end up with a living baby at the end of it. And so in Ireland at the moment, what the doctors basically say is that they're not really, and it's a grey area, and of course the no side will say it isn't a grey area, as to whether a doctor can advise you, yeah, you should go to England and get an abortion. Even if a doctor could advise you to do that, that's a fucking shitty thing to have to recommend. Sorry, you know, the medical procedure that you need is illegal here, so you have to go get it somewhere else. And so if you haven't picked up what my own personal position is on this, I'm going to surprise you a little bit. I'm not pro-abortion. I think there should be as few abortions as possible. I think that when they are necessary, they should be obtainable here. You should be able to go and get yourself sorted and do it in the sort of comfort of, you know, your local hospital, your local GP, wherever it ends up being. Because there's so many edge cases, it's such a complicated issue, and aside from any other sort of emotive argument you can make, the 8th Amendment just isn't fit for purpose. Like, it's blindingly obvious, because we've had to go back in and do basically 3 referenda since then to sort of make tweaks to it, because, oh no, wait, we're forcing people to essentially die because of this constitutional amendment. Now we're going to introduce specific tweaks for specific cases, and new cases keep coming up, and it's just bananas. Like, the European Court of Human Rights have basically come to us and said, lads, fucking sort it out. And so this is our way of sorting it out, and there's a lot of misinformation and etc. And, you know, I'm not fucking RTE, I don't have to be fair and balanced. It's mostly the no side. You know, there's a bit of sort of losing the plot on both sides, but the no side have just been fucking lying, like absolutely ridiculously, you know, saying that 1 in 5 babies is aborted in the UK, which is bollocks and nonsense. If you look at the actual statistics, they're counting miscarriages and they're counting early inductions and all that sort of stuff. You know, it's just, you know, abortion's legal up to 6 months. What they're basically saying is, what they're doing there is they're saying up to 6 months, if there'll be severe mental health issues with the mother, then you can get an abortion if, you know, the doctor's opinion does that. And what they're saying is, well, they're saying, like, doctors will just start signing off on that without even thinking about it. You'll be able to find a sympathetic doctor, and I have some time for that. But the other thing is, they're basically discounting mental health. They're saying mental health doesn't count. You know, you're not dying, so your mental health doesn't actually exist. And it's yet another fucking Irish erasure of mental health as a real issue. You know, they're sort of saying, yeah, but, you know, you're not dying, so you're okay. And so, and again, it's a narrative from the no side that, like, the yes side are pro-abortion. I'm not pro-abortion. I think that it's not a pleasant experience for anybody. Nobody's skipping into the abortion clinic saying, hooray, you know, this is brilliant. The whole idea of people using abortion as birth control is a myth. It's an absolute myth. It doesn't happen. The whole thing is geared towards making the other side look bad, and it's just gotten not nice. No, it's not nice. Whatever you think, you know, it's not a pro-abortion versus anti-abortion referendum. It really isn't. All it is a referendum to say, can we pass laws? You know, can we pass laws that are reasonable, that cover some of the cases? Can we have a judge, even if it goes to judicial review, like, rule on it and not be overturned because of the Constitution and the way it can be interpreted? Can we just do the right thing? You know, and a vote for no, in my head, is no, we can't do that. We're happy with the way things are. And the way things are just isn't good enough. You know, I'm not going to use emotive language. I'm not going to use, like, particular things. I don't have skin in this game. I don't have kids. I'm not planning on having kids. And that's my choice. Even though I have no skin in this game, it's still something that hits really close to home, because it just touches on so many, you know, societal aspects of how Ireland has operated and how it plans on operating in the future, and just the degree to which people can misinform others and you know, not have the right thing happen. It's kind of hard to put words on it. There's been so many words said on this referendum, so many fucking random words, be they lies or truths, and you know, it's hard to put my own words on it, so I'm just going to show you something. I like coming up here. It's Hout Summit, and you can see the whole of Dublin from here. There's Poolbeg Lighthouse over there, and you can see the ships coming in and out, and if the wind is right, you can see the planes taking off from Dublin Airport behind me and heading out over Dublin Bay. There's the ferry. It's funny how numbers work. Chances are there's somebody on that ferry coming home after having had an abortion, or there's somebody in a plane that's about to take off or about to land, and that's why they had to travel, that's why they had to go, because, not because our laws specifically say so, but because that's just how things were interpreted. That's just how the 8th Amendment has been kind of put across, that like, no, we have to export these people, these fucking incubators. It's just not fucking good enough, lads. It's classic Ireland though, isn't it, lads? It's beautiful, but if you look close enough, it's also sad. Anyway, I better go to work. What I say is, if you're undecided, or particularly not bothering, just have more of a think about it, you know? Think about if that's the opinion you want to have had in the sort of one opportunity of this generation for us to have a say in this kind of thing. And I'm not going to say you're a good person or a bad person or anything like that if you vote yes or if you vote no, but you know, have a think about it. Once you've thought about it and you're happy in your skin as to what way that you vote, then you do you. But what I will say is, please vote yes. Like, please vote for your the people that you know that could be in a situation where they need this kind of healthcare. The people who you don't know, you know, or the people that you know where they might have needed this kind of healthcare but they never told you. And there's more of those folks than you might think. And if nothing else, if you don't have a sort of a moral argument or objection, just vote for sense over nonsense, you know. Anyway, time to go to work. I shall see y'all later on in the week, most likely for a video about bikes back to normalcy. And the eagle-eyed among you will have spotted that it's most likely going to be a video about this bike. So anyway, stay tuned. Talk to you next time.